The medic. One of the most underplayed and underappreciated classes that you could find in Team Fortress 2. A lot of people don't even realize how important the medic is to a team. If played well, it can be a major game changer. It can completely change the tide of a battle. Now, thanks to the Uber update, the medic actually has quite a few different weapons at his disposal. Instead of the normal syringe gun, he has the Blot Slogger, which can heal teammates but at the cost of your regen rate, which is kind of important. You also have the Crusader's Crossbow, which has greater damage and also gives you the chance of doing greater healing, but has a very small clip. And then with the Uber update, you have the Overdose, which increases your movement but reduces your damage. I mean, out of those 4 different weapons, I tend to just stick with the basic syringe gun, personally. Also from there, you have the Metagun, which is probably what you're going to be using the most, because that's how you're going to be able to heal your teammates the best. You have the standard Metagun. You also have the Kritzkrieg, which basically, instead of the normal Ubercharge, which allows you and your target person you're healing to be invulnerable, it gives that person crits, like 100% crits for the next 8 seconds, but at the cost of no invulnerability. And then again, with the new Uber update, you have the Quick Fix, which when you go into Ubercharge increases healing by 300%, and basically you have immunity from movement impairments. And when not in Ubercharge, it gives you an additional 40% healing and allows you to Ubercharge even quicker, but you can't overheal like you can with the other 2 Metaguns. So, I mean, it's kind of a trade-off. It depends on your play style, which one do you want to use. But again, I stick to just the original Metagun because I've seen many occasions playing the game where the Metagun itself, when you go into Ubercharge and you're vulnerable, can really, again, change the tide of battle. Really helps you out as far as either making an offensive push or as far as defense is even concerned, as you'll see later on in the video. And then from there you have your melee weapon, to where you have the Bone Saw, which is actually quite powerful. You also have the Uber Saw, which is more or less like the Bone Saw, but gives you plus 25% to your Uber with each hit, but at the cost of being a slower hit each time. Then you also have the Vita Saw, which reduces your health, but you're able to retain up to 20% of your Uber upon death, which is kind of important for some people. And then from there, you also have with the Uber update, the Solemn Vow, which is just like the Bone Saw, except for you can actually see the enemy's health, which is a neat little trick. Now, of course, your most important job as a medic is to actually make sure that the team stays healed and stays alive. Now, when you heal somebody who already has full health, like this soldier right here, you'll notice that he starts to get overhealth. It's almost like a health buff, which is also very important to have on some of your teammates. Also, keep close to your teammates when healing, because the Metagun can only heal so far, and it cannot heal around corners. But you can spin around in place if you wanted to and still be able to heal. Of course, playing as a medic, usually your main objective is to be the healer of the group. You're supposed to pay attention to the other teammates, keep them healed to the best of your abilities, and make sure that they generally stay alive. And even though if you're making a push sometimes, like you see with these 2 heavies, it's good to keep them both kind of healed. Just don't stick to one target unless there's only one target to stick to. Also, what I would recommend from the beginning is when you're with your team is to try and overcharge them all while you're still in your main base before everybody is basically released for the match. And generally just pay attention to your surroundings. If you notice that people are calling for medics, generally go to them if you're with them. If not, make sure to, of course, always spy check, which I'll talk about later. But, I mean, try your best to keep everybody healed. As you can see here, I'm able to keep an eye on everybody so that way they're able to make the push forward. And this works with just about any class. I mean, whether it be Demo Man, Heavy, Pyro, or even Scout. Also keep in mind where the medkits on the map might be if you're low on health, so that way you can keep yourself alive, because you're more worth it alive than you are dead to the team. In some situations it's better to run than to stick around and heal and die. Now onto the fun part, the Ubercharge. You'll notice that while you're healing your teammates, there's a little meter at the bottom right corner. Now once that's full, you can deploy an Ubercharge, which has different effects based on which metagun you have. The original metagun, as you see that I'm using here, makes not only yourself, but whoever you're targeting invulnerable, which can cause a lot of damage, especially if you're doing it either offensively or defensively. The Crit's Krieg actually increases the crit chance of your target to 100% for a certain amount of time, as well as the fact that the Quick Fix increases your healing to 300% and removes any movement. Medics can even Ubercharge each other, but like in this video, it was more just a last second deal. We didn't really have anybody around that we could heal, and it was mostly just humorous than it was for much practical use. I mean, nobody really expects to see an Ubercharged medic running in their general direction, and like it is with almost anybody who's Ubercharged, tends to freak him out just a little bit. But again, it's not something I would generally recommend. It's more for, in my opinion, humorous purposes. It does have some practical efficiency, but generally leads to disaster like you see here. The Ubercharge can actually be applied to more than one target at once, but when doing so, keep in mind that it actually depletes the Ubercharge much quicker. And here's an example of how you can use the invulnerability Ubercharge to your advantage on an offensive push, as this heavy basically takes out this entire intelligence area. And defensively, I use the Ubercharge to keep myself alive, so that way I'm able to continue to heal the heavy, but as you notice, if you have the intelligence, you can't be made invulnerable. And if you do a good job, sometimes other players appreciate it, like this heavy let me capture the intelligence after keeping him held for quite a while against many other opponents. And generally, at least as far as when I see with heavies, if you tend to help them out quite a bit, they try to help you back in return, like this heavy gave me one of his sandwiches. As previously mentioned, you want to try and stay alive as long as possible. You're not going to do the team any good if you're dead, so generally try to use whoever you're healing as kind of like a meat shield, or stay off to the side so that way you're generally not in line of fire. Or even be a little inventive, like in this map you'll notice that as I'm healing the heavy, I'm actually using the buzzer blade as kind of a makeshift moving cover, so that way I'm able to stay alive, or able to continue to try and capture the point. You also want to go ahead and pay attention to your surroundings at all times. As you've seen previously in this video, and it's kind of with some of the footage you see here, I'm constantly doing meta turns and meta spins. Cheesy names that I've given them aside, it's very helpful for paying attention to what's going on around you, so that way you're not only keeping a lookout for any kind of enemies that are coming up from behind you, but also anybody who might try to harm the person that you're healing. It's generally a good practice that a lot of the better medics tend to do, and actually helps out quite a bit as far as keeping you alive and increasing your survivability. And the reason why you want to watch your back at all times is because if you don't, a spy will backstab it. And the spy as a class is probably going to be the most troublesome class that you will deal with in your time of Team Fortress 2. But if you're spy checking properly like you're supposed to and keeping an eye on your surroundings, they're generally going to be the one you kill the most as well. Spy checking usually consists of walking through whoever you're trying to heal, because if you bump into them, then chances are they're going to be a spy. As well as the 3 hit it before you quit it rule, because usually a spy will die by the second to third hit that you do with your melee weapon. Now most spies tend to be a little obvious. They'll either run straight for you or straight for one of your teammates instead of acting more like one of your teammates. And if they're not, and they're acting rather well, you could always do the 3 hitter to quit it, which killed that fake NG right there. And I know this isn't the spy guide, but as you can see here, I ran into this one spy who was constantly disguising as the same pyro over and over again. So it's most of the time very easy to pick up who is a spy and who isn't, but always make sure to spy check regardless. Now you're always supposed to try and make sure that your entire team is healed, but sometimes it's always a good idea to sometimes take priority from one target to the other. Now it's not something I would always recommend, but as you see here, I jumped from healing the heavy to making sure that the soldier stayed healed long enough for us to make it back to our base, and in order for us to capture the intel. Again, this is something I would only recommend if it benefits the team. Now there's a reason why you see so many achievements that involve the medic and the heavy, because generally they make a very good team. I mean, as long as you keep one healed and even Ubercharged, that kind of combination can cause a lot of damage, and you're able to accomplish a lot with the two of them. Now, the only time you should ever initiate combat as a medic is in defense of yourself, defense of your teammates, defense of your base, or in defense of an objective. There's no need for what most people call Rambo medics or even combat medics on a team unless, again, it's going to be for any one of those previously mentioned reasons. Otherwise, let everybody else tend to do the work as far as killing. Only use the syringe gun to try and create distance between you and an enemy. The medic is actually, besides the scout, one of the fastest classes in the game, so you want to take advantage of that distance you can create and basically use the syringe gun, which can fire a lot of shots that aren't very damaging but do have the capability of killing or at least intimidating your opponent to hopefully get them to go away. But it also is quite effective as far as killing scouts as well. So if you ever see one kind of running past you or trying to cause any damage, they're usually too fast for you to catch, so generally whip out the syringe gun and just kind of let them have it. But always make sure to go back to healing your teammates as soon as possible. So that's it for the medic guide. Hopefully a lot of the tips, tricks, and things that I've gone over in this video help you out the next time you decide to play as a medic. So I leave you with some crazy moments and kills that I've done during the recording of this video. Enjoy.